Welcome to Stephanie's Threads. I am Stephanie. I am going to share with you today a little yarn adventure that I have been on for about 4 weeks now, starting into the new year. So I hope you will settle in to join me. I am filming in my studio in Western Colorado in the Rocky Mountains. I want to thank everybody who is returning to see this episode and welcome you to leave a comment about your love for textiles. I am here to share my love of knitting, crochet, quilting, sewing. I'm actually working on some quilting content that I will be very happy to share with you in a few episodes from now. But today it's all about reclaiming and reusing yarn. I don't know about you, but when I go through my knits, I like to see what I'm not wearing. So there's things that, of course, I always reach for, and those are in, I call it high rotation, but I do like to check to see what am I not wearing and why. And I had a very interesting experience where I realized for a couple of factors. One was I have had some weight loss and my sweaters are just too big and don't fit, some of them. The other thing is I was realizing that the garment that I had knit didn't fit right. The neck was wrong. The color combination was wrong. The yarn with the pattern was just not to my liking. I want to be so clear, absolutely nothing to do with the patterns. It was my choices about the yarn selection, just the weight of it, the feel of it. It just didn't work. And I said, you know what? I am going to attempt, because I've seen videos on reclaiming yarn, but I thought, number one, like the emotional, oh my gosh, I've put my heart into knitting that, and can I bear the thought of unraveling it? And then the other part about just the time that you put into it, and it's sort of like a mental thing to get over that. But here's the thing, I believe that knitting, the part of the value of knitting is the longevity, the sustainability, and the usability. So I really had a reckoning with myself, and I said, you know what, this is ridiculous. You have these gorgeous garments that don't work for you, but the yarn is right there and ready to use. And especially because this year I am trying to economize and really use what I have rather than purchasing new, I thought, Stephanie, you're going to be knitting. You may be re-knitting. You may be knitting new, a yarn that you've already used, but you're still knitting. And once I got that in my mind, I thought, well, there is absolutely no reason to not take advantage of the yarn that I have and just go through this. And I have to say, as is my want, once I started, I think my sweaters are now cowering in their little hiding places to say, oh gosh, is she coming for us next? Because I started ripping, you really, like I went to town. So the first thing I want to share with you is I had made a fluted cowl, which is a fantastic pattern by Pearl Soho. I'll put a picture of it here. And I'll put a picture of myself wearing it when I made it. The yarn is so gorgeous. It's a super bulky yarn. It's called, what is it called? Pearl Soho Super Soft Merino. This is the color Gray Fig, which is just a stunning color. I don't have anything in my wardrobe that this color, and when I put it on, I was like, oh my gosh, well, I love that. I love the look of it. I love the feel of it. So I said, this is going to be my first attempt. I am going to rip it out and I'm going to see what the process is like to knit something new with it. So I did. This is the, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Nanaimo cardigan. It's a pattern by Tara Lynn Morrison for $7.50 US. It's a super bulky. Listen to this gauge, my friends. It is 3.5 stitches, 5 rows to 2 inches. So I'm going to show you when I put it up. You can see the stitches are gigantic. So knitting this goes very, very quickly. I knit this on 3 different needle sizes, size 13 US, which is a 9 millimeter, size 15, which is really the body, US, which is a 10 millimeter, and then size 17, which is 12.75 millimeter. I'm going to stand up so you can see it. It is so cute. I put it on this morning and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a cropped cardigan. So you can see it's really intended to be worn shorter. I just think it's so adorable. I feel quite fashionable wearing it. Nice sleeves, easy sleeves. And this I had, when I pulled out the fluted cowl, I had 6 skeins. So more than enough to buy. In fact, I have just this little bit left over, which hopefully you can see. I'll put it against this lighter purple. But I couldn't have been more pleased. So then I said, okay, let's go ahead and tackle a sweater that I had in my closet. I love this sweater. This is another pattern by the same designer. It's called the Moosonee sweater. It's a pullover by Tara Lynn Morrison. The yarn is Wool in the Gang, Crazy Sexy Wool, in the color, it has rose in it. I'll have to look it up. But there was a little difference between pulling this out, which remember was a cowl, so it was pretty simple construction, versus a sweater. So this is where I really want to start talking about my journey in terms of reclaiming yarn. This has been a process. I've been at it for more than a month. So I'm going to insert some still photos and a little bit of video as I go through this, because I really want to explain to you what I did in case it's of assistance to you. Should you have the desire to take something and say, you know what, I am not wearing this. I love this yarn. Let me reuse it. I do want to offer one clarification, which is there are people who go thrifting and they will buy commercial sweaters and they will unravel commercial sweaters. I've never done that. So my information today is for unraveling hand knit sweaters that I myself have knit. And I should clarify, the reason I pulled this one apart is because it was gigantic on me and I wasn't wearing it. But it is one of the sweaters that I loved to wear when it was very, very cold out, like in the 0 to 20 degree temperatures, because it's so warm and so comfortable. But it was, you'll see the video, it was falling off my shoulders. So there's really no point in attempting to wear that garment. And back up a little bit more so you can really see just how oversized it is on me currently. First consideration you have to give yourself if you're thinking about pulling something apart is, how was it knit to begin with? Because essentially, if you think about it, if you're unraveling, you are just reversing the process of knitting. So as an example, this is a top-down sweater, which means when I go to unravel it, I need to unravel from the bottom up, because you want to follow the stitches that you created. So the first thing you can see, and I'll put in a little video here, is where I have to find the ends of when I wove the ends in, I have to unweave them. And then hopefully I can just start pulling apart. So let me show you that. Then once you have that, the next step, and you'll see I did film a little bit of myself, just you're pulling it out. So, and hopefully that goes smoothly. what you're going to end up with, and I'll put a picture here so you can see, is some very kinked yarn. And what you have to realize is the yarn is holding, because it's wool, the yarn is holding the memory of the stitches that you just pulled apart. I suppose you could go ahead and just try to knit with that as it is, but I feel that I needed to relax the yarn so that I could knit it as if fresh. I didn't want the memory of those stitches to be affecting the tension and the look of the yarn, of the new garment that I was making. What I elected to do is to use my yarn swift. I tied a piece of the yarn onto the top of the swift, and then I wound it around the swift. And then before I pulled it off, I tied it in several different places so that when I went to pull it off, the yarn wouldn't become a tangled mess. I could still remove it intact. Then I ended up with this group of hanks of very kinked up yarn. My next step was, I said, I feel like I probably need to go ahead and soak this in a wool soak, just as I would as if I was soaking a sweater. And I'm very pleased to say what I ended up with is just about 6 skeins worth, which is what I originally started with, of kink-free, smooth yarn. And this is what I began knitting with. So you'll see there's no memory of those stitches in this yarn. It relaxed completely and really just became perfectly workable yarn to use. So I am now in the process of reknitting it, and this is what it looks like. I also had a discovery, which is that, let's see, the first time I knit this sweater, I used the recommended needle size, which was a size 19. And when I tried to use the 19 this time, I was like, well, no wonder the thing was oversized on me. The size 19, the gauge was completely off. So I dropped this down to a size 15. So from 19 to 15. And the gauge is now correct. When I show you this knit sweater, I'm going to show you what the gauge looks like so that you can see just how few stitches really it takes, because again, the gauge is 3.5 stitches to 2 inches. So, it doesn't take a lot, but I'm moving right along. The fit is better. I'm just about ready to start for the ribbing, like this sweater, like this cardigan. This sweater is meant to be somewhat cropped. So I need to try this on after this episode and probably put in just a little bit of ribbing, and then I'll go ahead and get started on the sleeves. It should be very, very quick, but I'm just very pleased. So then, let's just say I began looking through all of my sweaters, and I said, okay, what are the garments that I am really not wearing, that I am really just not thrilled with, and let me go at them. So I have at this point done 3 sweaters, and I have 2 more in my target. So let me show you, because and I'll put a picture of what it looks like when it was knit on the screen so you can see. So the first one, well, it's actually the third one, but the third one is a variation of the cowl pattern, which I loved so much. And I was gifted Harrisville Designs Highland yarn by my parents one Christmas. And my stepdad picked out the colors, and he's very good at it. So I said, you know what? However it happened when I made it has nothing to do with the pattern. I did not knit it well, and the yarn was not a good match with that particular pattern. So, and let me say, that's a colorwork sweater, as you saw from the picture. So here you go. This is my reclaimed Harrisville Designs Highland wool. Now I have not yet soaked this, and I won't until I'm ready to knit with it, but I wanted to use it to show you. This is a good thing to show you. You can see there's kinks in this, right? So the knit stitches that I unraveled the memory is still in this yarn. So before I use this, I'll go through the same process. I will put it on my Swift, I will tie it, I will soak it and dry it and then reuse it. But this is a sweater's worth of yarn that I have recovered. Whether I use them all together or not is up to me, but I can definitely do that. I also unraveled my super simple summer sweater. That's a pattern by Hoki Locatelli. Again, absolutely beautiful pattern. But I ordered the yarn online. I'll put a picture here that you can see. The yellow, I had the idea of making like a kind of sporty summer sweater with like the turquoise and the pink, and I wanted yellow, but the yellow came in the mail and it was too bright. It was like a what is that? Not magic, yellow highlighter. And I thought, I knit it. Also, interesting fact, it was one of the few times where I have done some helical knitting. I didn't do it correctly. And so there were like weird bumps throughout the whole thing. Needless to say, I literally would never wear it. So I reclaimed that yarn. I didn't bring that with me because you don't need to see that. Then the next one I tackled was the Cozy Classic Raglan. Again, phenomenal pattern. I love that yarn so much. I put a picture here so you can see. It was like a coffee colored fade and a DK weight, which is my favorite kind of sweater. I picked the wrong size. It was gigantic on me. And when I knit it, I said, oh, this will be great. It's like an oversized sweatshirt. Well, an oversized sweatshirt is one thing, but when you can fit like 3 other people in with you, it's not a garment you're gonna wear. So I pulled that apart. I have that yarn. Again, I unraveled it. I did not yet soak it, and I won't until I decide what I'm going to do with it, but it's in my stash and it's ready to use. And that was probably 5 weeks worth of just, working with things. And I do want to say, I want to be honest, unraveling something you've knit, it's a process. And I would say the majority of it is, again, you do have to follow how you knit it. So if you can remember that, it's good. But the other thing is, my goodness, I weave my ends in strongly because I don't want my stuff to come apart. So when you do come across those places where your ends are woven in, you have to be really careful and patient because you've got to find how you did it. So with the bulky stuff, it was really quite simple. You can just pull it out with a big needle as you saw in the video that I shared. But with this stuff, I think this might be worsted. But let me tell you, when this stuff is woven in and it's sticky because it's a non-superwash wool, oof, you have to be really, really patient. So I did have to, I did not do it all in one fell swoop. This one I unraveled pretty much within a very short time span. But when I was doing this one and my DK weight, I really took my time. When I found myself getting fussy, I would get up and go do something else because, you don't want to ruin the yarn. The point is to make to recover the yarn, not to be angry with the yarn. Okay, so I have one more that I'm going to I was looking at this. This is my Avena sweater. Love this pattern by Jen Steingass. Love the yarn. This yarn in particular was a gift from my best friend, so I absolutely love it. This is a worsted weight sweater, but it is gigantic. And so you can see with the neckline, it's like, what was that movie that was so popular? Oh, Flashdance, yeah, where she wore those sweatshirts off her, off her shoulders. That's what this is. And for me, wearing a knit sweater is not about a flash dance sweatshirt. It's about having something warm to keep yourself warm. So this is something that I don't mind the color combination, although I don't think it's my best. And this yarn is very soft, really nice yarn. So that's my next one. And I have one more that I am considering. It's another bulky knit. I wore it the other day because it was very, very cold here. And it is kind of nice and oversized, but the only consideration I have for that one is it's got a really significant halo. And I don't know if in pulling it out, I'm going to be fighting the yarn not wanting to depart from its neighbors. So that's the only consideration for me. Otherwise, it would already be done. But once I deal with this one and possibly the other one, which is called the passerby, then I will be done. I have scoured my sweaters, and even though they're all probably cowering in their little spots, waiting for Mama to come and rip them apart, what I tell them, and I do mean this because I do believe that garments have a life force and an energy, and especially wool, because it came from little sheepies. Then I just tell it, thank you so much for your service, and I will be giving you a new life. So I don't feel bad about that. I think it's better to just acknowledge that I'm not going to wear it and reuse it. So let me just recap to make sure that I was very, very clear about what needs to happen. And I can just use this one as an example. This is a top-down sweater. So you can do one of two things when you're tackling it. You can start with your sleeve, which to be honest is what I do because it's smaller circumference and it kind of helps me to understand how the yarn is going to behave for me. So I usually start with my sleeve and I hold it up to the light and I look through to see if I can find where I wove in my end. That's where I begin. I use a tapestry needle and I pull that out with patience. And then ideally you start to rip and you're pulling back the yarn. Now you got to be careful. Obviously, if you think about a top-down sweater, you knit from the top down and then you separate for sleeves. So somewhere in your sleeve area, you've got ends, you've got yarn joining, you have to be a little careful. So I tend to rip back my sleeve, both sleeves, and get to the point where I know I'm approaching my separation for sleeve if I were knitting. And then I go ahead and do the same thing. I go to the bottom of the sweater, find the end, and I start unraveling. So at a certain point, and remember, if you knit it from the top down, what you do is you knit, and then you get to a place where you separate for sleeves. So somewhere along the way up in here, when you're done the yoke, you're going to have to do some real patient unraveling to reclaim your yarn. And of course, this is color work, so I've got, two different types of yarn to manage, but it's not as bad as you think. It's the first time I've done it, and I was so undeterred. I've done 5 or 6 at this point, and I'm so happy that I did because I feel like, yes, I had the pleasure of knitting it the first time. I did not enjoy the garment, so I am reclaiming it, and I'm going to knit something else for myself that I'm going to love, and I'm going to use it. And so that for me is just a tremendous win. I figured, why not? So again, I do just want to reemphasize, this is not the same thing that you do if you have a commercially knit sweater, because the seaming is different in a commercially knit sweater. And so it's a bit different of a process and not something I've done, so I can't speak upon it with any expertise. But hopefully the next time I see you, I'll be able to give you an update on my Moosonee. In the meanwhile, I'm going to enjoy the heck out of my Nanaimo. I just love this. I cannot speak highly enough of this yarn from Purl Soho. And they do still have it, I checked. They don't have the gray fig color, but the Pearl Soho Super Soft Merino. And I should say this, but I do link a lot of information in the show description. So when you go down and look, I put the patterns in, of course, I put my link to Ravelry, and I have on my project pages. I did not get rid of them because I said, well, I knit them. So my original fluted cowl is in there, and my Nanaimo is in there now. And I even called my Moosonee reknit. So all my projects are there for you to look at if you should desire or revisit anything. And that's it for today. I hope that this inspires you to really look at your garments. Just see if there's anything that you feel a little bit like, wow, I knit that, I am never going to wear it. Unless you want to gift it to somebody and move it on, like, some people say you just move it to a different household, which is completely fine. But some of these things for me, I really wanted to, I love the yarn, I wanted to reuse it. So I said, I'm going to try it. The worst thing is that you don't enjoy doing it. So go slow, take your time. Just remember, you're still knitting. So you're not losing anything, but you're gaining the potential of having a garment that you actually love and will want to wear. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment. Let me know if you think you'll reclaim something or if you've done it before. I'd love to know. Tell me how your winter is going, how your knitting is going, how your crafting is going. One of the things I was thinking about as we're moving through the winter is I started watching podcasts because I had a lot of alone time. And as I was crafting, I would just pop on like the Grocery Girls, or I'd pop on Needles at the Ready, or any one of the many podcasts which are out there to enjoy. And they kept me such glorious company. One of my favorites is Fleece and Harmony, which is a podcast from a shepherd, and they have a mill on their property. So they have their sheep, they make yarn, but they're the loveliest people. And I just find this knitting community is so kind and so supportive, and they're just my people. So I just was thinking, I really want, and I hope that my company does that for you, that it brings you a little bit of joy, a little bit of levity, a little bit of curiosity, and that you will investigate things. And I'd love to know, if you are a person who's done thrifting of sweaters and pulled them apart, how that went for you. I don't think that I would do it, but I'm just curious. I just like to be curious. So I will say, until we meet again, I wish you smooth stitches and so much peace.